Well, we are one round down in this year's Greyhound Derby. It was absolutely fantastic to see some of the best take on some of the best on the track. It was also fantastic to see the punters taking on the on-course bookmakers, and I'm delighted to say that I'm joined by one of those. Daniel Bunny Bookmakers Hunt joins me now. How are you, Daniel?
Yes, we're all good. Thank you. Yeah. Finally, I was a bit tired over the weekend or from Sunday onwards after the 3 rounds. But yeah, I'm excited for the next, Friday and Saturday night coming up, the next round, the second round.
Now, tied counting the money. How does it stand at the moment? We're 3 nights down in the Greyhound Derby. Are you in front? Is it 3-0 to the bookmakers? How does it stand?
For me, it's 2-1. I'm 2-1 in front at the moment. I won on the Thursday. Lost on the Friday, believe it or not. Although there was a lot of favourites turned over on the Friday, I laid the second and third in to good money on some of those races. So I lost on the Friday, and then the Saturday was a decent evening as well. So 2-1 to the good at the moment.
That's your view to the good.
Yes.
Right, listen, let's just talk about the fact that you are back on track, Daniel, because
Mm.
it was a long time in which you wasn't. It must be great to be drawing the battle lines up and taking on the punters face to face.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it's been what has it been, over a year since we were last sort of, I would say, on course in front, having a crowd in front of us. So it was great to be back. I didn't know what to expect from the first round. Obviously with there still being an element of lockdown, but the crowd was fantastic and the money was really good, and I loved it really. I enjoyed it. It was brilliant to be back. There was great atmosphere. It was good to hear some cheers go up from the crowd. When dogs hit the front, albeit when they were losers in the book, that maybe wasn't as good. But yeah, no, it was just great to be back, and the weather was fantastic. And Kevin and the team have done a great job at Telstra. So all in all, yeah, it was just really good, really good.
Now you've got your pitch there, Bunny Bookmakers. The
Yeah,
sponsors, Star Sports, are there. There are quite a few bookmakers. What, we 5 or 6?
we've currently got five, so there'll be five of us all the way through to finals night on the Derby heats and etc. and rounds, and then on finals night, I think we do. There'll probably be about 10 bookmakers, I think, at this stage.
Yeah, hopefully it'll be a nice big crowd for you to get stuck
Yeah,
into and the
yeah,
battle lines
absolutely.
drawn, as I say.
Yeah,
Well, let's talk about then. We're not going to go through all 32 heats, but we'll,
no,
we'll talk about each day. First up, the Thursday. It looked quite a fair track, I thought. We had heat winners from all 6 boxes, but the clock would suggest that the track was a little bit slower. Did you think that?
yeah. I must admit, it did seem that it was slightly slower on the Thursday, because you still had some good dogs that went around there on the Thursday night. And yeah, the times would suggest that yeah, it was an element of slower going for the Thursday for
Yeah,
sure.
and I suppose the biggest eye catcher, the dog that stole the headlines a little bit, was Ballymac Kingdom, who came from off the speed
Yeah,
in really, really impressive fashion. What did you make of his performance?
yeah, I was impressed with that performance because it showed good early pace. Took a bit of a bump at the first bend, but then yeah, once it got running again, it stayed on very strongly. That was an impressive performance, I thought, because it showed it. Basically, I think those are the tools that you need to win the derby. You've got to have a bit of early pace to get yourself in a position, and then you've got to stay. And yeah, that dog certainly got both of those.
Now, the result that screamed result for the punters was Drum Crow Brent, who
Yeah,
was very, very well backed. I think prices as big as 7-2 in the week. Eventually went off even money. Was
yeah,
there a plunge on course as well?
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so I laid it all. That was my probably biggest loss of the 3 days. Yeah, we started off laying at 3-1 in the week, and then yeah, right way down, all prices down. So that was a huge difference to me. Um, yeah, but the dog ran well. He took a little while to get there, so I think the cheers went up down the back, and then it went all quiet for a little bit because I think the dog didn't quite go by as quickly as everyone thought he was going to. But he was always going to get there, I felt. Yeah.
Yeah, and then a little bit later on the card, just looking down at the results, New in Session 4-11, Priceless Jet 2 on, and Signer Ace 2-11. Would they be races that would be probably quiet for the on course books?
What you tend to find there is the smaller punters don't tend to bet on those races because they probably fancy the favourite, but it's obviously they're not going to get very good returns on placing their 20, 30, 40 pounds. But what you do tend to find is maybe the big hitters come out at those sort of, they love those sort of prices, better interest than the building society or the bank, I guess. And so you do tend to find you get some big bets laid on those particular prices.
And were the big hitters out, or you don't have to sort of name
They,
names and name stakes, but they
yeah,
sort of,
yeah,
yeah?
no, there was some big bets. I mean, like I say, it was over the 3 nights. There was plenty of money, and it was a good spread of money. All sorts, and there were certainly some big bets that were laid throughout the 3 nights, and on the odds-ons, of course.
Okay, let's move on to the Friday then,
Hmm.
because we had some big clashes, particularly at the front end of the card. The first race, Anti-Post favourite Knocknable Sid beaten by Toolmaker Sydney.
Hmm.
Would that have been a result for you? I mean, Toolmaker Knocknable Sid was 4-11. It went. So
Yeah.
would he have been sort of those prohibited odds that people would have stayed away from?
Yeah, so the first 2 races on the Friday where you had the short odds on, once again, I actually didn't win anything on those 2 races simply because I may have laid the favourite, but also I laid the second favourite. And, for instance, Sydney was the second favourite and I'd laid that as well. So I was hoping for a miracle really to win on those 2 races, I think. But I mean, I was very impressive with the Sydney dog, but looking at his record, he looks like one of those that's very hit and miss. So last time he was at Telstar, he missed his break and got in a bit of trouble, but he flew out the other day, and I thought he was very impressive. But the question is whether he will do that every round. That's going to be the key.
Yeah, but there were some turn-ups, particularly the likes of Luna Rocket at a big
Yes.
price, 7-1. So would Friday have been a night that is that one of the nights in which you won? Then was it, Daniel?
No, the Friday night was actually the night I lost,
Right.
unfortunately. But and you look at the results, sometimes you think, oh, how did I lose that night? But sometimes it's just the way you catch the bets. The bookmakers next door to you might not lay the dog, but you do.
You
That's
mentioned that you laid sort of the second in a couple of
yeah,
races. That's where the damage was.
yeah. And a big one for me on Friday night was I wanted the Keira Knightley dog to win. I'd laid it, but I'd laid the one heavier. So
Oh, the Hayley Keatley dog, Roxham Shake.
that's it. So I wanted that to hold on because I'd put the one in the book for a lot more money. So that was a big turnaround for me. So it's just elements like that where sometimes you don't have, total control over the how the
Yeah, I'm
money.
sure that might bring in the punters actually if Keira Knightley took up training.
Oh yes,
Daniel,
I just thought about that.
the big
This is
crowd
good with a
at
dog,
Toaster.
apparently.
Yeah, we have to
Yeah.
speak to Mr. Boothby about that. See if we can bring it down. Let's move on to Saturday. Then and we of course had the defending champion Dearjet Sydney, who rode his luck, shall we say, around the first couple of
Yeah.
bends, and then it opened up nicely for him. Now, was he a dog that you perhaps would have tried to stand because he had a really tricky draw?
Yeah, to be fair, there was good money for Sydney in two. So yeah, I did put him in the book quite strongly, and I thought at the first bend we got a good result there because I think it went. I haven't seen the video yet, but I think it went round 6-4, did it, or something like that, and then they've come together at the second bend.
Yeah,
Uh,
one sort of lifted off at the second
yeah,
bend and opened it up nice for him.
that's it. So yeah, once I review the videos, I'll obviously take a look for the next round. But yeah, at that moment in time, that race, I thought he was one to lay. I wasn't sure he would clear, and it'll be interesting to see how he gets on. I think he's on the Saturday night because there's a bit of early in the race. He's in again on Saturday. So yeah,
And what did you make of Native Maestro, who, with a few bookmakers,
yeah,
is now the outright favourite, and of course Fox is on the clock in the first round?
yeah, rightly so. He's been there twice, and yeah, he's been very impressive twice. And I can't see him. He's the one actually on. I think he's on this Friday night. I can't see him getting beat Friday. He's got track one, and there doesn't seem to be a lot of pace in the race. I think he'll be well odds on, but I can't see him getting beat. So for me, he's already in the next round, if you like.
Yeah, I mean, just talk us through what your process is going to be now as an on-course bookmaker.
Hmm.
So you mentioned you go meeting by meeting.
Yeah.
So we've not got to Toaster, of course, racing in the week now. So we've not got to Friday or Saturday yet.
No.
But before Friday, you will then go back and watch the videos.
Yeah, for sure. So I've not looked at the videos from the heats as yet. I will probably do that either today or later today or tomorrow. Simply because I'm at Telstar tomorrow, so I'll do the race card for then. But I'll go through the videos. I'll see how the dogs run, and then I'll form my opinion and do my race card for Friday and Saturday, probably tomorrow, if not Friday morning. Yeah, that's how I'll work it.
And will you go to the track with your opinion and then, peep in on the early prices, see the moves and take heed of those?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll form I always form my market first, or my opinion first, before I even look at what anyone else is doing, even the betting firms. So I'll do my race card, form my opinion, do my pricing, and then I'll have a look at what else is going on in the market across the likes of William Hill and Corals, etc., Ladbrokes, Bet365, and just see where maybe some of the money is coming from. And it's no one's 100% and gets it spot on all the time, but so I always find it helpful to actually just see where, if there are any big differences, and why that might be, and whether I feel I have got it right and they're wrong, or whether I've made a mistake. I have, no one's perfect, so yeah, and then I may structure it slightly different if that is the case.
And what do you make of the track itself? I mean, you mentioned about a dog with a little bit of early pace to get
Hmm.
up in the van, as it were, to use a
Yeah,
horse racing expression. Is that the kind of profile of dog we should be looking at to win this year's Derby?
I think so. I think you've got to have a bit of early pace to get yourself in a position. But most importantly, you've got to stay the 500 meters very strong. I think it's going to take a 500, 550 meter dog to win the Derby. That's not to say that something that maybe is a 480 meter dog can't win it, but I just think that's the ideal candidate. You've got to get in a position, and then you've got to stay it very strongly. It's a good 500 meters.
Yeah, it was interesting because when I spoke to Patrick Janssens after
Mm.
Bocco's Belly had won, he was kind of mapping out the dog as a 575 dog at Romford.
Yes.
And I said, well, hold on a minute, Patrick, like you've just won a heat at the Derby, and he might go a long way. And he said, yes, but he feels that the profile of dog you're looking for is very similar to what you've just said there, 550 meter dog. You got to stay.
Yeah, you have. And I think the track's brilliant. And yeah, I don't think there are any excuses really. If you've got the dog, of course, that if a dog misses the break or doesn't get the draw, that's the way it is, I'm afraid. But I think if your dog's 100% and you've got a chance in the Derby, it's at Telstar. It's
Now,
a good.
be honest, Daniel, very, very honest with me. Not a single person says a bad word about the traps being changed.
No,
Did you fancy your chances if we began into the Derby with the old boxes? Because they were very hit and miss, wasn't they? We're seeing very erratic starts from some dogs.
yeah, no, that's true. There were some. Yeah, to be fair, it's one of those things. I think potentially the newer traps are better.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they have improved.
Give
What
the
they have,
punters more of a chance.
well, punter's more of a chance, and at the end of the day, it's more of a level playing field. So I
Exactly.
don't think there's any excuses on the traps now. Um, I have noticed that the clock, the sectionals have increased or come down. So where dogs, you would very rarely see a dog do, sub 4.2 sectional. Now you're seeing it quite on a regular basis, where dogs are dipping under the 4.2 sectional. So that for me tells me that actually the times, if you like, have come down across the board in terms of the sectional, and then also the overall times. So where you were getting dogs that were doing 30 dead or 29.80, they're now doing 29.60, 29.80. I think everything's shifted slightly.
Definitely something to
Yeah,
take note of.
yeah.
That well, you've not. I wanted to ask you one that you're going to try and get after and get beat in the second round, but it sounds like you've not really carded up. Is there anything that you was perhaps a little bit disappointed with in the first round? You thought, well, maybe this is a dog that's not going to win the Derby.
I think it's too early. I think the key is the Irish haven't played their hand yet.
Right.
So that this is the. I don't know how you do it because I've never trained dogs, but obviously they're not trying to win the Derby now. It's all about just qualifying,
Yeah.
and I don't think you'll really get an idea until probably the third round onwards. I think at the moment the dogs, there'll be some dogs that are really fresh and ready to go, and then there'll be others that will just be continually to improve throughout the next few rounds. And I think that they're looking just to get through, and then it's all, then the hard work goes from there. So I haven't done the card, so I don't know what my lays are yet in terms of Friday and Saturday, but I normally have one or two that I think maybe can't get a run or will struggle to get a run, and therefore they're worth taking on. For instance, I did look at Maestro. I can't see him getting beat, so he's not one I'd lay him because he's going to be short, but he's not one that I would have for I'd be taking on strongly, to be fair.
What about the new In Session dog, or that bizarre incident sort of after the line with his back
Mm,
legs going over to the rail, and I'm sure if he lines up, he'll be sound. Of course he will, because Graham Holland and Nicky, they're a top
yeah.
team. But question marks over that dog because he was a very short price. He got the job done, dare I say, workmanlike. But
Yeah,
we know what a monster he is, and he's not
yeah.
looked a monster just yet.
No, absolutely. I mean, when he come there a few weeks before for a trial stakes, I wasn't over impressed with him, but I think he upped his game the other day, and I think it was a good run. And yes, it was a bit bizarre what happened at the 3/4 mark where he's gone into over the rail, stepped over the rail, but then to come back and actually carry on running. Um, there's a good few lengths in him yet, I think. And once again, I don't think he's not spot on, obviously, just yet. I don't think so. There's more to come there as well. So I think it's coming to it's going to be very intriguing the next few weeks, and I think it's too well. Certainly for me, I couldn't find a winner at this moment in time. I think it's very open. I think they're all capable of beating each other on their day, so it's going to be very interesting.
You're absolutely. I think it'd be foolish to write off any of the
Yeah,
big guns, particularly new in session with the master Graham Holland in his corner. Well, I've got
absolutely.
to ask you then, Daniel. I'd like to catch up with you throughout the derby, but I'm
Yeah, sure.
gonna get a call from you after the first round, and maybe that'll change next week after the third round, whatever. But who's gonna win the derby this year
I don't
then?
know who's going to win it, but I have had a bet. I've bet Beach Avenue each way for the simple reason I think he's one of those dogs that will just keep on qualifying. The only concern I have with him is he doesn't seem to be blessed with lots of early pace. So I think if he did get to the final, you might find if you're against the likes of Native, Maestro, etc., that. But if they slip clear, I'm not sure he can give them sort of 2 or 3 lengths and give them a beat. And I think he'd be looking for a bit of trouble up front to then pick them off. But I think at the moment, the way the heats are and the next rounds, I think I can just see him continuing to qualify.
Yeah.
And if you get to the final, then you've always got a chance. Yeah.
Absolutely, and the final being on Saturday, the 10th of July, and the track have got big plans. I'm sure you'll be in your best turned out and ready
Yeah.
to take the punters on.
Yeah, absolutely. Really looking for. I didn't know what to expect for the heats. Speaking to a couple of the bookmakers that were there 2 years ago, I think this year's heats, in terms of trading, was well up on that year, 2 years ago. So yeah, it may have been a pent up demand of punters wanting to get out and see some racing and have a bet. Of course, that was probably a part of it. The weather, the good racing. There was a combination, I'm sure, of factors, but it was good trading, and yeah, it bodes well for the next rounds and certainly the final. I'm excited about as well.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll encourage you, of course, to get to the track and take on Daniel and all the other on-course bookmakers. If not, of course, you can watch the action, every race of it, every round, live on Racing Post Greyhound TV. This has been the on-course opinion. I thank you for your time and your expertise, Daniel.
No problem at all. It's been a pleasure, Dave, and good luck. And I'm sure we'll speak again soon. Yeah.
Great stuff. Cheers, Daniel.
Yeah. Thanks, Dave. Cheers.